Hey, Gutsy Moves today with Melissa from Yonder.
Hello. Well, good to be here.
We're so happy. We are in Asheville and we are making our way through the Yonder team. And we're going to talk to you today about some guest experience things. There's going to be some great stories, I hear. Behind the scenes is what you're going to get.
Right.
And a little bit more about luxury vacation rentals and the area. So welcome.
So I am the coup. We like to call my position is the operations, but we joke internally, it's the coup. I'm the best coup. I've been with the company for 11 years now and started at the beginning. After Steve started the company, I was like employee number 4, I think, 4 or 5. So it's been a fun ride, and we've, to look back as to where we started versus where we are now is pretty exciting.
Some pretty humble beginnings that we're going to talk a little bit with Steve about. So when you were number 4 employee, was this like I want to work with y'all, or is this like we need help?
Probably a combination of both. We were, with Steve being my brother-in-law, we were kind of in the know from the beginning with the vacation rental aspect of things. And we actually put our own house into the vacation rental company, into the portfolio. And so we knew a lot about the company. We knew kind of the goals and learned, of course, a lot during those beginning stages. And then I was actually working for a company called the Gold Spot, where we bought and sold precious metals. It was not shady, I promise. But it was the company, the owner was getting ready to close. And I reached out to Steve and said, from a guest experience team member standpoint, and he was kind of expressing some need for help. And I find that I'm pretty good with people. And I was like, I can do that. And so I started, again, about 11 years ago, like a Memorial Day weekend, and I got a 15-minute training session from Steve before he left for a long weekend to go play baseball in Atlanta. And I was like, 15 minutes, that's it? Okay, here we go. And back in that day, I was the guest experience team person. I was the maintenance person. I was on call. So if there were any issues, it was like you were just the one person. You did it all. So, if a house didn't have water, I would go to the store, buy water jugs, call the plumber. It was like all in one position. So,
and in those early days, about how many homes were you managing?
I want to say we were in the 30 to 40 range. Wow. I believe that's about accurate. Yeah.
That is a lot for one human to coordinate all of this.
Yeah. It was, I look back and I'm like, how did we do that? But you just do what you do and you get through it, and it was
That's
fun.
the entrepreneurial spirit. You
Exactly.
just do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and, I know it's not my company, but it is sort of a family, and we do consider ourselves a small family business. And so I'm literally family, but it's all very personal. If there's an issue with a guest, I want to solve that, and so that's kind of where that guest experience, when I initially started, it was, I want to solve this. I want to, a bad review was just like a gut punch. You didn't, you try to do everything you can to avoid that. So yeah, it's all very personal still, when we see anything negative or a guest had a bad experience, any of that. So
how did that roll into a gutsy move with the evolution of Yonder and growing from 30 homes to at some point 60 homes to 120 homes, and it keeps going? And there was some gutsy move somewhere in that timeline.
Yeah. Well, after we started growing, obviously it was pretty organic. Homeowners started kind of knocking on the door on a regular basis, and Steve just kept signing up homes, and so then we had to add to our team. I had to hire more guest experience team members. I became, kind of started. That's where the evolution of the operational side of my skills came in, because I was over that. So I trained everybody. I would hire the maintenance people and all that. And then at one point, I don't recall the year, but we wanted to expand to the coast, so the Wilmington area. And from my perspective, that was kind of a gutsy move in that we were kind of stepping out into the unknown. We weren't sure. We had never expanded. We just, again, everything happened so organically here in Asheville that we didn't really have to work all that hard at it. And so when we expanded to the coast, it was hard. And we started out with 2 or 3 homes, and just never could quite get the ball rolling out there from a business development standpoint. And it's such a saturated market, a lot of competition in that area. People have been, management companies that had been there for years and years, and it was really hard to break into that. So I feel like it was a gutsy move, but it was also a gutsy move. We decided, several years later, 3 or 4 years, I think, and we finally got together and said, we got to pull the plug. And so I think that was a gutsy move from that standpoint too. Like, we tried it, didn't work out like we thought or hoped. So we kind of stopped that, focused on Western North Carolina, and then fast forward several years later, we have an opportunity and goals to expand again. And so, we took what we learned from that experience, and I think did a pretty good job. We had goals of expanding to Arizona and Florida. And a couple of years ago, we did end up going into Arizona. And so that was really exciting. Took a little bit to start building up that portfolio, but I think we're on the right path. And we've, again, used what we learned from that quote unquote failure, which I don't really like to call it a failure. It was just an experience that didn't work out like we thought it would.
That's a interesting concept to hear, because the thought of a gutsy move, you don't want to talk about failure. And it's a daily thought process for entrepreneurs and small businesses where they're trying to figure out, okay, we're good. You end the day, and then the next day you start over and you're thinking, I'm not good. Well, what are we going to do, and how are we going to work through it? And so you said in Wilmington, it was about a 4-year process. You pull the plug. And then collectively, we are working on expanding in Phoenix now, the greater Phoenix market, Maricopa County in particular. And in just less than half of that time, Yonder is at about a 30 property count in that market. So
correct. Yep.
You've got a failure, and you've got, I don't want to necessarily jinx this and use the word success.
Right.
It's definitely a comparative difference. And Wilmington had a lot to do with learning curves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're on the right path, and, you're learning every day. So it just makes us better.
Gary Keller has this thing about failing forward, and every failure is a lesson and or something that would help you in the future. So there really truly is no failure so long as you learn something from it.
Right.
So
Love it.
Carry that into Arizona. Buying, selling, or investing. We are the creative ones. Visit us at creativeones.com.
So we're talking about all these things that not a lot of people find obvious in the vacation rental space, and the awareness of what actually goes on in a home is pretty amazing when you pull back the curtain and you look at what a guest actually expects or doesn't know, and then the evolution of, okay, so how do we involve ourselves and inject what we're doing as Yonder into their stay? And there are some things that are pretty wild. Tell us about this behind the scenes stuff that maybe just doesn't go noticed.
Yeah, the whole you can't make this stuff up kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the story. I want to hear the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
the good stuff.
We've constantly talked about we need to write a book about these things. Just a statement, but the average guest is very interesting, and I found this out very quickly when you start dealing with them and the questions they ask, and it's just like, does it even matter? One of my first favorite stories was there was a family, a gal, and she was from Miami, Florida somewhere. She had the Miami vibe, and she calls, and they were booking a house for Christmas, and she starts, I start telling her about the property, and you could put a Christmas tree, you can do whatever you want, just make sure, all the things, and she's like, we really want to see snow. Is it going to snow when I'm there? And I kind of stopped and I was like, okay. So I repeated the question. I said, are you asking if I know if it's going to snow when you're here in December? And she's like, oh, well, because in my mind, I'm like, if I knew that, honey, I would be doing something different. But it's just so funny that it's like what they expect or what they ask. Yeah, there's been quite a few. Trying to think, you know, is your washing machine energy efficient?
Wow.
Really?
That was actually not too long ago, and I'm like, okay, so what if we say no? Are you going to not come because it's not anyway? So things like that, and it's one of those things where that's not information that we have like in our system. There's a washing machine and a dryer, so we have to then to try to satisfy the guest and answer a question, we have to send our property care specialist. So I recall we sent Bill Dowdy. He's one of the property care specialists on the ground, boots on the ground. So we send him over to that house, and of course he's rolling his eyes, but it in fact is an energy efficient washing machine. So we gathered that information, then we put it into the system so that we have it in case, next time. So, how many steps to the front door, how many steps to the dock. And so we have literally gotten so detail oriented when we bring a home on that we're like, all right, where's the light switch? Where's the thermostat? How many steps are down to, downstairs? And it's interesting.
Believe me, I know those Q&A onboarding sheets are a pain in the ass.
They are, but you know why? Because it comes up, and you would not, again, you can't make it up, the questions that people come up with.
You've got to get to a point where you think, well, this has got to be the most bizarre. We'll never hear anything else more bizarre than this. And then something else.
Right. And then we have a guest come and stay it was like a 45-day stay. And all of a sudden we got a call that a tree had been cut down. So we had a guest bring a chainsaw with him on his stay, he and his family, and started cutting down trees. What? And, so Brian is over maintenance. He went out to the property to check it out and knocked on the door and said, what happened to the trees? And he was like, well, they fell. And Brian went over to the tree, and it's a smooth cut right through the trunk of the tree. And he was like, well, I cut it down further, after the splintered part. And then he asked, well, where's all the wood? Well, I took care of it for you. I figured I could do that for you. He was like, so our assumption is basically this guy came, I don't know, brought a chainsaw, started cutting down the wood, or cutting down the trees, chopping up the wood, and maybe sold it for
needed some firewood.
I don't know. It was.
How long ago was that?
That was, well, ended up becoming more of a situation too, but that was probably 9 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Recent.
Yeah.
Never changes.
So again, you just can't make that up.
No. And some homeowners allow pets in the home.
Yep.
Are they ever a problem? Do you ever have issues with that?
Honestly, not really. A lot less than what you would think. And that it's actually a big hesitation for owners to make their house pet friendly, because they're like, some people don't, manage their dogs like they should, or, take them in, make sure they go outside to use the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. But it's shockingly not a huge issue. Most pet owners are responsible.
Yeah.
And that's actually become a huge amenity or option since COVID. A lot of people got dogs during COVID.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of folks who are wanting to bring their dogs on vacation. And, it's funny because this next generation, the younger folks who are, just getting out of college or just getting married, a lot of them have dogs, and that's their baby. And so they, trying to explain to some of us, or we would leave our dogs at home when we went on vacation. But it's a lot more popular. It's part of the family. The dog is part of the family. So
you see that traveling today, more frequently in airports, and just they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. The animals literally car to car, mm-hmm. airport to airport. We're noticing that more as well. So we keep rolling back the curtain, and learning a little bit about guest experience. And tell us this again. What in the world? Back in the early days?
Again, you can't make this stuff up. So back in the early days when Steve, our founder, and Mark, our marketing guy, the CMO, they were in charge of, some of the guest services at that point, making sure guests needed whatever they, if they needed something or needed to address anything. So they were out and about and went to a property where there was a bachelorette party going on. And, they want to just make sure that they had everything they needed. Is there anything else, we can do for you? And one of the gals says, we have an interesting request. We're looking for a male midget stripper. And we were like, and so Steve and Mark were, of course, wanting to make this guest happy. But it was funny. She was like, yeah, it's a unique request. And so they did their best. They, found a place out of Charlotte that had that opportunity and gave them the information. We're not sure if that actually happened, but it was that was a unique one.
Yeah, I'm picturing the images, the photos of this of the situation. Yes. Do we say midget? Do we say little people?
Yeah,
what do we say?
I'm not sure what the politically correct term is today, but it was pre-Google anyway, or at least enough that phones and computers weren't as resourceful back then as they are now.
But they were found, and the service was provided, right?
That's
the information was given.
Happy guest. That's our focus.
So you just, again, can't make that up. There's like always some new crazy story that everyone has their own thing. So
Exactly.
Tell us another one.
One of our property care specialists, Richard, was called out to a property to address an issue with a toilet, I think. So it was like a Saturday morning. He goes to the door, knocks on the door. Somebody comes, answers it. He walks into a room full of 20-something gals all hooked up to IVs. And he thought he was gonna pass out. He was like, I've never seen anything quite like that before. And it turns out that they were doing the a mobile IV hydration. I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but they were all hydrating from the night before, and so they can.
So in Las Vegas, there is a bus, and it travels up and down the strip. And it's
right.
IV therapy.
IV therapy.
And so you can just hook up there and ride the strip up and down a couple of times, get your hydration, and then go on and do it again.
Yeah,
It really is. Maybe it's a service y'all could start offering with your suite of available auxiliary type of services. I think we're onto something.
I think we are. That
Bachelorette. I mean, I don't know, just a crazy fun weekend. There's a lot of breweries around here.
There are. Yeah, we could add that as a Yonder Experience program, right?
I think. I don't know why you want it.
Loyalty points.
That's right. That's right.
A distinctive approach to passive income with luxury vacation rentals.
For more information, check out our website, quinvestors.com. Okay. Yonder Luxury Vacation Rentals is known for the Asheville, North Carolina market and Western North Carolina.
Correct.
What is on this horizon of Yonder regarding expansion? And does it ever go nationwide? Is it worldwide? What is Yonder going to do? And how do you do that? Especially given you tried expanding once and failed.
What we've done is we feel like we have a well-oiled machine in Western North Carolina. And we weren't successful in expanding to the coast, but we've taken a lot of that. We've learned, and again, trying to replicate what we have in the mountains it's a challenge for sure. But moving into Arizona, we've been able to, a few of the main benefits is that we know exactly what we're doing here. So we're going to replicate that, from cleaning to our property care specialists to even the quality of homes. So we thankfully have a partner in Clean City that handles all of our the majority of cleaning our homes in North Carolina, and they've moved with us to Arizona as well. So having that consistency for that portfolio is huge. We have pretty high standards when it comes to clean guarantee. We have a clean guarantee, and so that's something that I think sets us apart a little bit. And so having them as a partner in Arizona, and hopefully if we take the world by surprise, if we expand, they'll be with us. They are true partners. So that's a huge aspect of being able to replicate what we've done here. Another part is the boots on the ground. We've got a few folks out there right now that are super dependable. They know what they're doing. They're efficient. They're able to do what we do here.
Because you could run a lot of things from your hub here, but
Exactly.
it doesn't replace what boots to the ground. Someone has to show up to fix the toilet or deliver the information of whatever it is, or the blender
Right.
that broke, or all of that. So it's that people and who, not how. But I think then when people consider building businesses and or expanding, it's sort of like, have you ever purchased some furniture that was not assembled? Let's use chairs for an example. IKEA, if you've heard of that store, or something of the like, maybe delivered from Wayfair. And by the way, I'm always surprised when it comes in a flat box, and I thought I ordered a chair.
Right.
And it just comes in a flat box. And then you realize that you have to put, all 12 chairs together.
Right.
And the first chair takes the longest and is the most frustrating.
Exactly.
And by the time you get to the 12th chair, you are like, IKEA should hire me. I got this down.
Right.
And each time you expand and plop and expand and plop, it's just a fast forward of, so does Florida get up and running faster? And then where do you go after that? And then to me, at that point, expansion seems just so fast.
Yeah.
And it always takes the longest to build that first chair.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. And I think that's one thing that we were hesitant, or some of us were hesitant to expand, because it's all about the people. If we don't have the right people in place, how can it operate like we want it to? But the fact that we have found good people, and that's our focus. If we, like you said, we can run it from anywhere. We can be the hub here in Asheville, but the people on the ground, they need to be Yonder quality. They need to have the Yonder vibe, and just, again, continue to keep the Yonder brand and the consistency the same across the board, no matter, again, Phoenix, Florida, Italy, wherever.
Yeah.
Well, that is true. We've talked about people first. We talked a little bit, dreaming big and how you can do literally who, not how. And those questions are consistently asked on our expansion meetings when we talk about, how are we going to do this? And invariably it goes back to who's going to do it. And so you're right. And it's extremely important to convey that message as we have our eyes forward, who, not how. We were in Phoenix for 3 weeks here not too long ago, launching Quinvestors with cocktails and cacti.
Yes.
And being in Phoenix for 3 weeks, number one, that's awesome.
Right.
And the ability to connect with folks in that market over and over and over again is vital to launching a successful vacation rental. And I think our true to what we've just said is the testament to Yonder and the relationships that we've developed in Phoenix. And the guys there and the gals there are doing an amazing job.
Yeah. And there's got to be some nuances in between the marketplaces of things that are different, not just with the houses, but here's one thing I learned. There's this room in Northeast Ohio that we call a sunroom.
Okay.
And it has it's like a 3 seasons room, and it has screens on 3 sides usually.
Right.
And you don't use it in the middle of winter because it's too cold, but most of the year it's pretty great. We call it a sunroom. And other areas, like in Florida, they call it a lanai.
Okay. Yeah.
And in Arizona, it's called an Arizona room.
That's all it's called.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're real creative out there. And then I noticed another thing with this new casita word. And Brandon, you tried to use it yesterday. He used the word casita, referencing an ADU, accessory dwelling unit here. I was like, you can't just be bringing Arizona terms to North Carolina.
Right.
Casita is in Arizona and an ADU is here.
Or pool house.
Or pool house.
Pool house. Yeah.
Have you noticed any other like differences with like, oh wow, they don't do that there? Or this is different?
Not as well. Let's see. There are some things that are different. Here in the mountains, we deal with bears. We deal with, like raccoons that get into the trash. Out there, they have different animals. And what is it called?
Javelina.
Javelina. That's right.
Javelina.
Yes. So we've had to learn about them. Most of our team is, like our guest experience team, is in North Carolina. And so they've had to research and learn about these little critters and figure out how we can, explain to guests that you can't leave trash here or can't leave trash there. So that's been interesting. One of the little twists on, oh, okay. Yep.
Something I wasn't thinking of just recently was the thermostat needed to be adjusted, and it was in some type of lock mode, and they needed our help, who had the app, to like do the unlock thing. And it's chilly here in the evening. It's 45, 50 degrees and we're snuggled in bed, and we're getting messages about it's 90 degrees in Arizona and it's still set in heat mode.
Right.
It's like not dawning on us that not going to work out there.
Right. Yeah.
And cooled pools too. That's a thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
Heated and cooled pools in Arizona.
Yeah. Who would have thought you would need to cool a pool?
Yeah.
It's not just an aeration system. It's literally a pool cooler.
So from a Yonder perspective with that, you have to redo your check-in amenities type of sheets too.
Yeah.
Like all those adjustments.
Correct. Yeah. We've had to go through all of the information that we send out to guests and tweak it. Here in the mountains, you have to literally write out the directions because you've got windy roads going everywhere and not great signage sometimes, and that sort of thing. In Arizona, it's all straightforward. So we're like, here's the Google, just the link, right? Here's your Google Maps link. So that was actually a nice change because we didn't have to write it all out from Google. But so that's another thing. And you're right on the heating and cooling. Out like here again in the mountains, if we're comparing when it's AC time, you don't want it to go, or when somebody checks out, we want them to put it at 75, right? In Arizona, because it gets so hot, they say don't put it below 85, and we're like 85 for air conditioning. It seems crazy, but when it's 115 degrees outside, that's you don't want to freeze up the system. So it's been interesting to learn the different landscape out there for sure.
We just had right here in North Carolina, thermostat experience. Speaking of 85, we had a tree trimming crew that was staying for 66 days. And was it Leroy that walked in? And our thermostat was set at 87, but it was actually 90 degrees in the house in February. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, we were tipped off when they said they needed the propane tank filled.
Oh my gosh.
Like, how is it empty again?
Right.
Yeah.
My
So
goodness.
they needed to, maybe they were from Arizona.
They needed to be nice and warm and cozy.
Yeah. Pro tip, Wi-Fi with lock on your thermostats.
Yeah.
That's right.